Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a gameplay replay for Survivor today. I did watch this beforehand, and it is a rank 9 Survivor, I think directly after rank reset, yeah, 6-4. So it is directly after rank reset, so I believe that this person was in purple ranks beforehand. Spoiler alert. One person gets out, and it is the player. But I think that there are some things that I can highlight to better show people at this rank what to do and where to go and all the things that they could be doing. Maybe not necessarily like looping advice and whatnot, but just general advice on where to be at what time. So let's get into it. So it's Batum Preschool 1, which is just the basic preschool map. Just fine, everybody probably knows that one. First thing you do, you start with everybody, somebody opens a chest, they're running around, what to do, no generator. You split off from your group, which is good. This is what you want to do. You don't want to be next to everybody, because what if it's a legion, what if it's whoever, you see them over there, you don't go in there, that's good. You want to be as far away from your team as possible at the beginning of the game, so that if the killer finds you, your team is safe to work on gens basically in peace, or vice versa if somebody else gets found. So you're stealthing a lot in the beginning, which I personally don't like. I would prefer you just get into this house or the other gen right there and just work on a generator. You run into the killer here, which looks like it spooks you pretty hard. You jump out this window and you run into this car, which is good because there's a pallet here. Now, you're running around, he's stalking you. Now, here's the thing. Right, so he's here. Okay, so this top length here of this car, I believe he cannot stalk you over it. So the best idea would be to either hide next to this pallet and crouch, forcing him to come around, which would make you go around the car. But every time he stops to stalk, you want to crouch instead of running around. So you'll stop at places, but like every time he stops to stalk like this, like when you stopped here, you want to crouch, because he can't see you, which means he can't get his tier up. And the more you can delay the tier up of a Myers, the more he can get going, or the less he can get going in the early game, and that's when he's at his weakest. So you want to take advantage of him as soon as possible. You crouch and you just prevent him from getting stalk as much as possible. Only crouch whenever he's stalking. Once he starts moving, you start, holding shift and running again, so on and so forth. So don't let him get too close. He gets to stalk, and you immediately leave the loop. Don't do this. This is ridiculous. He just got a speed boost from being tier 2, and now he can get you. You don't see any pallets, but this one. There's no pallets. You know that the killer shack is to your right. You know that the house of pain is in front of you, and then the school is to your left. Why would you ever leave this loop? Now, fortunately, there's a pallet right around the corner. So you could just throw it, and that's that. He kicks it, and you leave. You run away. This is good. Now, I don't think you should be looking straight forward. You know where you're going. You're going to this break in the fence. You want to turn your camera around and keep your eye on the killer. So you're going. You stop at this fence. You see him here. That's good. You keep running. You think he's following you. Keep going. This Meg was just working on a generator. Keep running. Now, here's where I'd say you'd want to stop. Right here at this post, because this gives you perfect vision of this opening, this opening, this opening, and if you turn your camera, you can see over here where the other fence is. In a second, you'll see that they run a bit farther, much farther. This Meg's like, what are we doing? What's going on? But you stop here and you hide. You see that somebody else just got hit. You should be standing up and running to either back to your generator or somewhere else. There's no reason for you to be standing here doing nothing. You need to be running to the next generator. You know he's chasing somebody else. And you know he's tier 2, so he's not a stealth Myers, completely stealth Myers. They go down, you're still hiding, you need to run away. Which you do. You get a med kit out of a box, which somebody tried to loot, I guess. I don't know. But you run to this generator with 3 people on it, which is great because you've proved thyself. However, I'm going to make a case for Kindred. This Jane gets put into the basement right about now. You see them way down there. This killer's up here. Now, if they were hooked and you had Kindred, you'd be able to see where the killer was. You'd be able to see where your teammates go after you get off this gen. Only one of you needs to go down there. It's a basement against a Myers. He's not going to be camping it, probably. And the problem is you don't want to all go down there at once, because if he pops tier 3 while you're coming up the steps, you guys are in big trouble. You see that guy stalking somebody, you run into the basement, but then somebody else gets the unhook and you leave, which is good because you don't need to be down there. They take a hit, everybody gets out perfectly fine. You're playing quite scared this time as well. You're gonna go work on this gen, which is good. This is exactly what you need to be doing, but you probably should have been on this about 20 seconds earlier. If you had Kindred, you'd have been able to get off that gen that you guys finished with 3 and run directly to this, because you know that your teammates are, going down there to help. So you can probably assume that this guy is fine, but this guy's probably getting chased. But being cautious and looking around is probably fine. Even though you have Spine Chill. Now you see the killer right there, and he sees you. First thing you do, get up and leave, which is perfect. This is exactly what you need to be doing. You just run, right? You run away, you get out of line of sight, you do as many things as you can to get away from them as quickly as possible, because as soon as they see you and you run, that's going to make as much problems for the slow mouse 1 killer. The slow mouse 1 killer is gonna... They're not going to be able to catch you if you just run preemptively. So this is a perfect play. And then you're about to do something extremely advanced, which not a lot of people think about, which I don't even know if you think about, but you do it great. So you ran over there and then you started walking. Now what this does is this puts scratch marks all the way down this path and then onto this doorway. Now what that and then the scratch marks just stop. And then you walked into here. So the killer's going to follow these scratch marks into that doorway and then leave. And they're going to be like, well, where did they go? And then you walk around here, you watch them go through, and you leave. It's about at this point where you can assume that this killer has at least Monitor and Abuse and maybe Dead Cat as well, because you were right next to them, you didn't hear their terror radius at all. Something to think about in terms of what perks they have. You do the gen, you find out they have Overcharge. That's 2 perks. That's 2 perks to think about. So Monitor and Abuse, Overcharge. Okay, you hear them walk by, you get on the other side of the gen, and they're right there. Now, you're just beelining it to this pallet, which is not necessarily a horribly bad thing, only because you looked back at the last second to see whether or not you needed to drop it. So you loop this as usual on the large side, which is good because the small side would have gotten you hit. You drop the pallet, but then you don't stop to look and see if they kick it, which is a mistake. If they had just run around, since that other side of the pallet, since this side of the pallet right here is short, if they had just gone around and then you drop it and they had kept going around and then following you, they could have easily gotten a hit on you. There's no window here to go on. There's no pallet. You would have basically eaten a free hit there, right? So you go through here, you finally peek back right here. You don't see any killer, but you hear a terror radius, so you can confirm Monitor and Abuse. If they were behind you, they'd be right here. So they're not. They're going around the house or through the house, right? You can already tell that they're already either over here or in the house itself, which means you can easily peek around this corner and then run back, and you can save yourself a lot of time. I think there's a generator in this killer shack which you could just go to start doing. But instead you opt to keep running because you hear the terror radius. You think they're right on top of you. Now you keep going, you think they're behind you, but then you find out they're right in front of you. That hit should have been to you. The Jane was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She didn't know where the killer was. She didn't hear a terror radius because, or well, she probably heard a terror radius because he was in chase and Monitor and Abuse makes it huge, blah, blah, blah. You should have eaten that hit, but you didn't. So you just leave and kind of go, well, what do? I'm going to hide a little bit. There's no generator over here. I guess I'll go this way. Generator in here is done. What do? Okay, so you start heading back to your generator right here, which is good. That's fine. However, all of that would have been negated if you just run to the killer shack and started doing that, Jen. You're doing this, Jen, right here, which is good. Killer starts chasing you again, and then you run, but he kicks it. He kicks this Gen. This is a huge blunder by him. Obviously, you don't need to be kicking Gens mid-chase as a killer unless you have Pop Goes the Weasel, because otherwise there's literally no reason. He's going to chase your scratch marks, but he didn't see where you went, so he assumes that you either went through this window or through this door because your scratch marks went all the way to here, stopped, and then hit on this doorway. So another great scratch mark manipulation trick here to think about maybe in the future if the killer doesn't exactly see where you go. Now obviously this is going to get harder the further down the ranks you go. So you're going to do some more hiding. He's looking for you in this house. He thinks that you're just crouching around. Obviously you're not. So technically what you're doing here is you're wasting a lot of the killer's time, which is great. This is the only time that I would say stealthing is a specifically good tactic, because he goes back to the gen because he thinks you're going to be on it, and you're not. You're just not on it, right? There's still sparks. He goes to the killer shack. They finish that. Great. All that time that you just wasted because he thought he was looking for you, those 3 people were on a generator. He gets a hit on the obsession. You hit another overcharged skill check. The Jane comes over here hurt, and this Meg is being chased through the house. Okay, so she's in a strong position. You can pretty safely work on this with Prove Thyself, which is great. This is exactly where you need to be. And then you see him chase around there. You're like, all right, let's heal, because once you get this done, and then, or you don't get this done, and then you can go and heal her, but she doesn't want to heal because she probably has adrenaline. Just do the gen. In the future, you don't need to get up, just do the gen. It's fine. So Meg gets hooked. Turns out Jane does have adrenaline. She runs away. You start to follow her, but then the killer goes back to the hook, and you try to bait him. You do a good job of baiting him, but you get really close. This distance is not enough. You need to have done it from over here, not here, right? You will need to have a straight shot either to that pallet to your right or to the pallet near the car. He swings and misses. You'll see why this is important. He swings and misses and then goes back to the hook because he's like, oh no, I've gotten too far. I can't camp this person unless... And they get off the hook. It's adrenaline. They leave. Oh well. He probably found the default Meg that was hiding that unhooked this person, and you go to help them, and you find out why this miss is so important for you. Noed. Now at this point in time, what do? You got 2 choices. You have 1, go look for totems. 2, just leave. You opt to peek around. You don't see any totems, and you're just like, okay, time to go. Your team should be thinking the exact same thing. Just leave. You see that the exit is, it's 99. And you go, all right, everyone go. There's no reason. We can't get this guy. It's going to be impossible. He pushes you out, in fact, but actually finds the obsession. So you leave. Technically, you could have stayed in and tried to contest the hooks, but it would have been the death of you, honestly. So you peek through here, go through here. You find out that the Jane gets found. She actually has a key, which is really unfortunate. It's dedicated through that window right there. And so 3 people died and no end. Pretty common in this tier, I would say, but it's no end. You really only have the 2 choices way back when you even saw the prompt, when the first person ate the hit, right? Is to just leave. The other decision would have been right here, instead of going in here and looking, right? Let me get the right place here. Instead of going into the school and then leaving, you go to this side of the map and start looking for totems. That's the only other option you have, is to sneak around looking for totems, because he's not going to leave this hook. Well, he did, but he usually won't. you look for totems and you bring the game back, but it's usually worse to do that. Let him have his pity kill instead of this from happening. Third person gets hooked, he stands there, and he looks deep into your eyes like, I got you. Yeah. Just leave, or you gotta look for totems. There's no half-assing it. You can't rescue people from the hook while Noah is active, unless you're just trying to have some fun. Stay around looking for perks. You find out that he does have Dead Cat and Monitor and Abuse, and he has a Vanity Mirror, which I'll throw up what exactly it does because I can't think of it off the top of my head. That's so little it gets used. I know that it makes you a little bit slower and limits you to tier 2, which is why you never heard tier 3 get popped. His build is kind of weird in that, you know, I get the idea of save the best for last, because once you get it maxed, then with the Vanity Mirror, I guess it helps you and you can be sort of a stealth killer. I hate it. It's terrible. It's not a good build. Anyway, things you can do better. Keep the killer in your eyesight. Make sure you watch the killer as much as possible, especially whenever it comes time for line of sight. If you don't see his red glow, he's probably cutting you off, right? Going around large buildings, if you don't see him exactly following you, he's probably cutting you off, like here, right? You definitely need to make sure you keep the killer in your sights. Like, you should be looking backwards at this point. Don't go laser focused into pallets or windows or wherever your goal is to go, because there's a good chance they're just going to go around and cut you off because they can see that you don't see them. The other thing you can do is stealth a little bit less. Stealthing is not necessarily a bad thing, but at high level play, you won't see people stealthing. They're just going to be holding shift running around the map because they know that they're just going to get to a place like this house that's just impossible to catch good people at, right? Or they're going to go to a pallet and just stun you with it, and then they're going to get away. You don't need to be stealthing around. The only time that it's really acceptable to be stealthing around is at this point when you really deceive the killer into looking through this whole building for you, because this is basically a chase without you getting any points. Like, you know that, well, you might not know, but there are 3 people working on gens. He's searching for you and not coming up with anything. So this is really the only acceptable time, because it's basically a chase with no risk, which is, it's fine. The other thing that I could say is for solo queue, which you're obviously solo queuing, maybe not Prove Thyself or maybe not Spine Chill, but instead use Kindred, just so you get like that vast amount of information whenever one person gets hooked. Obviously that's your choice, but Kindred is good. DS and Dead Hard are obviously quite good. You didn't use either of them because you didn't get hit in this game, but they're good perks regardless. So yeah, I mean, I know that this is only, you know, rank 9, but this is about what this series is going to be about. So if you wanna be a part of this series, record some gameplay of yourself playing, send it to me, and I'll make one of these videos about it. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, give me a comment for constructive criticism, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and that'll about do it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.